So what will happen after the next great Middle Eastern war when you say Israel's defeated?
The northern king will establish a peace treaty with the nation Israel, and then he'll turn his attention to the western coastlands. He'll attack them, but he'll be thoroughly defeated, and I would imagine his country will be pretty annihilated. And then when he returns to his country, he'll be killed by his own people. He'll have a successor that will likely die of poisoning and will reign only days to a year at most. And after that, you will have the Antichrist coming onto the scene in the start of the tribulation period.
What benefit is it of knowing what end-time prophecies mean? Won't it all pan out for God's people?
Let's suppose that you happen to be in a situation where you made a statement that Jesus is the only way to heaven, or you said something against homosexuality or abortion, or against the Islamic faith. And let's say that they were coming for your family, hunting you down. Would you be adequately prepared? There may be many in this situation in the future. And if you're not prepared, what if you go without food, without water, and you're living under the elements and your natural instincts kick in? Would you be more likely to compromise your faith? Now, I believe that if we are not prepared as a church body for hard times, we'll be more likely to compromise our faith and lose eternal reward. Yes, we may get to heaven, but there's some eternal reward that's lost. Now you may think, well, this is a crazy scenario. How could this occur in America? Well, it's occurring over 10% of the world, and the persecution in the world has been tremendously increasing. And there are many people that are dealing with these same situations. Some are prepared, some are not. Now, if you pull out a magazine on Voice of the Martyrs, you'll see examples on a regular basis of people that are just suffering tremendously for the name of Christ. And are we to expect that our health, wealth, and prosperity will continue forever? I pray frequently for God's true remnant people in America and throughout the world, that we will stay strong to the end no matter the cost. And I also pray that we will have discernment and be prepared for hard times if they were to come ahead, so that we will be less likely to compromise.
What are God's people to do in these uncertain times?
I'd like to go to the parable of the 10 virgins. I think it applies very well to the end times. 5 of them were ready for the bridegroom. And notice that they went out to meet the bridegroom. They weren't surprised. And this tends to point away from an imminent, unexpected coming. Now, when you ask yourself, what makes a wise virgin in these last days? And I think the most important thing is having a life-changing relationship with Jesus Christ, where you're not playing around with Jesus, where it's having an impact on your life. And if it's truly life-saving faith, it should be enduring faith. And so your light for Christ will shine bright through the darkness of whatever persecution comes your way. And another question you have to ask is, how do we have enough oil for our lamps to be a wise virgin? And I think the answer to that question is taking a look at church history. When the church has become persecuted, the church has done a recurrent theme. And you see this when you look at the ruins under Cappadocia and many other sites around the world, where you have underground networks of church places of refuge. You see that in the 10% of the persecuted church around the world today. And when you go back to the early church days, in Acts, they were doing some pretty unusual things. They were selling their land and pooling their money. This was unheard of for a Jew to sell his land unless he had to. But yet the Holy Spirit put it on their hearts that they need to do something to prepare for the eventual persecution that was coming their way. And the primary reason was to ensure that the gospel gets perpetuated. So what I'm saying here is that we need to consider individually networking with other Christians and establishing places of refuge so that we can be able to better sustain persecution and better promote the primary goal of evangelization. And I would encourage church leaders to look around, look at the political situation that is occurring with the Fairness Doctrine and all these other bills that are coming before Congress and all these changes worldwide. We're not really too far away from persecution affecting the churches. And what will that do to the organized churches when their mouths are limited and they can't speak the true gospel? Well, I think we need to think about a plan B. Maybe individual separate sites of refuge or resort should be established so that when persecution begins, the true shepherd can still pasture the sheep through these times of persecution.